Dear students, we hope you are staying home and staying safe. In the previous video, we will discuss about some basic terminologies and some basic terms of agriculture. So now I am here to presenting you the second part of chapter crop production and management. So let's take out a pen and a paper and start making points, because in the end of this video, I will give you a small assignment. So we will start from agriculture practices. Now the question is, what is agriculture practices? As you know, farmers do very hard work to get maximum production from the field. Yes, farmers do very hard work. For this they use different skills. For this they use different methods. And this is are called agriculture practices. For the maximum production of crops, you have to follow some basic steps. Now, these are some basic steps of crop production processes. First one is soil preparation. In the soil preparation, basically three things are important. First one is plowing, second one is leveling, and third one is applying fertilizers. And the second agriculture practices is selection and sowing of seeds. Third one is irrigation, that is watering of crops. Fourth one is weeding and crop protection. And fifth and last one is harvesting and storage. So note down these agriculture practices. First one is soil preparation, that is your plowing, leveling and applying fertilizers. Second one is selection and sowing of seeds. Third one is irrigation, that is watering of crops. Fourth one is weeding and crop protection. Fifth one is harvesting and storage. This is the agriculture practices cycle. For good and more production of crops, we have to follow these steps. First one is preparation of soil, then sowing, after that applying, adding manure and fertilizers, then irrigation, after that protecting from weeds, then harvesting, and last one is your storage. Let's see in detail. The first one is preparation of soil. Basically, preparation of soils involves plowing, leveling and applying fertilizers. The preparation of soil is the basically first step before growing a crop. There are basically two basic things happen in the preparation of soil. The first one is loosening of the soil and the second one is leveling of the soil. Both of them are called tilling and plowing. Let's move on. What is plowing? So the process of loosening and turning the soil is called plowing. It has many advantages. This allows root to penetrate deep into the soil. Fertilizers and manure can be mixed well into the loosened soil. Water drains easily in the loosened soil and many more. So write down the definition of plowing. The process of loosening and turning the soil is called plowing or tilling. This is some agriculture implements for tilling. The first one is plow. Basically, the instrument is used for plowing is called plow. Plow may be made up of wood and iron or iron only. In old days, people use wooden plow, but nowadays people use iron plow. As you can see in the picture, wooden plow, and the next one is your iron plow. So write down this plow. The instrument used for plowing is called plow. In old days, people use wooden plow, but nowadays people use iron plow. The next one is hoe. It is a simple tool which is used for removing weeds and for loosening the soil. And the next one is cultivator. It is a big machine and it saves labor and time. Nowadays, plowing is done by tractor driven cultivator. The use of cultivator saves labor and time. So write down this. Hoe. It is a simple tool which is used for removing weeds and for loosening the soil. And the second one is cultivator. It is a big machine and it saves labor and time. Nowadays, plowing is done by tractor-driven cultivator. After that, leveling. Even after plowing, big lumps of soil may remain in the field. These are crushed using wooden or iron plank called leveler, and this process is called leveling. So the process of making soil surface even and smooth is called leveling, and it is done by leveler. As you can see in the picture, the first one is your wooden leveler and the second one is your iron leveler. So note down these points. Process to making soil surface in level for sowing seeds, and it is done by leveler which is made up of wood or iron. After that, we have to adding some manures and fertilizers. So what is manure and fertilizers? Basically, the substance which are added in the soil in the form of nutrients for healthy growth of plants are called manure and fertilizers. So there is some basic difference in the manure and fertilizers. First we see manure. Manure is a basically mainly decomposed animal dung and plant material. It contains a large amount of fiber and it increases the water capacity, holding capacity of the soil. And the fertilizers are basically the chemical substance which are rich in particular nutrients and it is produced in factories. So the examples are urea, ammonium, sulfate, nitrogen, etc. So write down the difference between manures and fertilizers. Manure is a natural substance obtained by decomposition of animal wastes like cow dung, human waste and animal residue. And a fertilizer is a salt or an organic substance. The next one is manure can be prepared in the field, but fertilizers are prepared in factories. The third one is a manure provides a lot of organic matter like humus to the soil, but a fertilizer does not provide any humus to the soil. Here, the next step is sowing. Basically, sowing is the most important part of the crop production. So, the process of scattering or putting seeds into the ground is called sowing. Before sowing, good qualities are selected and good seeds are clean and healthy, free from infection and diseases. Basically, two methods of sowing seeds. Number one is sowing by hand. Number two is sowing with a seed drill. Sowing with the seed drill is considered better than the sowing with the hands because the seeds are in regular rows and it saves time and labor. So note down these points. The definition of sowing: the process of scattering or putting seeds into the ground is called sowing. There are two methods of sowing seeds. First one is sowing by hand and the second one is sowing with a seed drill. This is your manual sowing and this is your traditional method. In this picture, using a seed drill, this is your modern method. Nowadays, seed drills are used for sowing with the help of a tractor. Let's talk about irrigation. What is irrigation? Basically, irrigation means supplying water to the crops to the regular interval and whenever it's required. So, water is very essential for the growth and the development of crop plants. So, and the definition is irrigation, the process of supplying water to the crops in the field is called irrigation. And the sources of irrigation is rivers, canals, well, tube wells, dams, ponds and lake. There are basically two methods of irrigation. The first one is your traditional method and second one is your modern method. In the traditional method, irrigations are moth and the second one is rahat. Third one is dhekli and the fourth one is chain pump. In the modern method, irrigations are sprinkler system and drip system. So write down the definition of irrigation. The process of supplying water to the crops plant in the field is called irrigation. And the sources of irrigation is river, canal, wells, tube wells, dam, ponds and rivers. The traditional methods are moth, rahat, dhekli and fourth one is your chain pump. And the modern methods are sprinkler system and drip system. This is your traditional method. First one is moth system and second one is your chain pump. Third one is your rahat system and fourth one is your dhekli system. In these systems, cattle and humans' labors are used. These methods are cheaper. These your traditional method and modern methods. The first one is your drip irrigation and the second one is your sprinkler irrigation. Now let's move on the removing the weeds. So what is weeds? Basically, the unwanted plants which grown along with the cultivated crops are called weeds. Yes, weeds are unwanted and uncultivated plants that are grown along with the crop plants. If you visit a field, you will notice many weeds growing in the crop plants. These weeds are not grown by the farmer. They grow on their own. So, write down the definition of weeds. The unwanted plants which grow along with a cultivated crop is called weeds. And now, what is weeding? The process of removing weeds from the field is called weeding. So, write down the definition of weeding. The process of removing weeds from the crop field is called weeding. The best time of the removal of weeds is before they produce flowers and seeds. The next is the various methods of weeding are. The first one is removal of weed by pulling them out with hands. The second one is removal of weeds by using a trowel. The third one is destroying the weeds by spraying some special chemicals that is your pesticides. Now, let's move on to the harvesting. Basically, harvesting means cutting and gathering. The cutting and gathering of the mature crops is called harvesting. It is done by either by hand using a sickle or moisturizing a machine. This is called your harvester. So note down the definition of harvesting. The cutting and gathering of the mature food crops is called harvesting. It is done either by hand and using a sickle by a motorized machine called harvester. After that, we have to store of the food grains. After that, we have to storage of the food grains. So, vegetables and fruits are preserved in the cold storage, and large amount of granaries are stored in godown, and these are your called granaries. So the practice or the means of keeping grains until it is sold or used is called storage. The large scale storage of food grain is done by gunny bags or in the grain solis. Here you can see the assignment. Here some questions are there. Write down these questions in your copy. The first question is, write the steps of agriculture practices. The second question is, explain how fertilizers are different from manure. The third one is, what are the steps involved in soil preparation? The fourth one is, what is irrigation? And the name, the methods of irrigation. I repeat all these questions. The first one is, write the steps of agriculture practices. Explain how fertilizers are different from manure. Third one is, what are the steps involved in soil preparation? And fourth one is, what is irrigation? Name the methods of irrigation. The next question is, write the short notes on sowing, weeding and harvesting. And the last question is, draw the cycle of crop production. I am repeating. Write short notes on sowing, weeding and harvesting. And the sixth question is, draw the cycle of crop production. So watch the video carefully and do your questions in your science notebook. Okay, we will meet you in next class. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe and study hard.